Hey there, my name is Anthony Romano, and I'm going to tell you in this video why keto is actually the least expensive fat loss diet you can do. This probably flies in the face of a lot of what you've heard about keto, but I'm telling you, I've done this. I have other videos on my page too where I was in New Zealand and I made a very tight budget fit a ketogenic diet, but keto is so ridiculously inexpensive if you handle it properly, and I'm going to tell you everything about that in this video. So, what makes keto so inexpensive? Here are some of the main things. Number one, most important one, which I probably should have saved for the end, you're eating less food. You're eating less food. Okay, your appetite is diminished greatly because keto is our default metabolism. We're not meant to have rapid blood sugar spikes all the time, and even though carbs aren't the devil, realistically, for most indigenous societies and our ancestors, carbs were not available year-round.
Coach, shut up!
If they were a little bit more available, if your ancestors are from Hawaii, then yeah, maybe you could have had a little bit more of carbs laying around, but grains don't grow, fruits don't grow, and there certainly weren't Snickers bars lying around. Snickers being probably my favorite chocolate bar, as people chirp me about it in the comments. But the thing is, our body's default metabolism is fat. This is why we have fat stored in the body. This is why our brain is made almost entirely of fat, and why we can store seemingly endless amounts of fat and very minimal amounts of carbs, only around 2,000 calories worth in the entire body. So carbs are not the preferred fuel, but they are a luxury fuel. It's a fuel that your body wants to use right away because it's quick digesting. The analogy I always use is that fat is gasoline and carbs are like NOS. If you use too much carbs all at once, or if you have a very ridiculous 1,000 carb a day diet, something like that, you're going to be overheating. You're going to be burning your engine up and putting a lot of oxidative stress on your body. And there's plenty of documentation on this you can read about. It creates a lot more reactive oxygen species in the body, and fat is a far less expensive fuel to use, and it's 9 calories per gram opposed to 4, as carbs are. So essentially, you can eat way less food and be way more satiated, more than doubly satiated, because your body's getting more than double the calories per macro, or per gram of macro. So oftentimes people will say, oh, on a fat loss diet, cut out the fat because it's more expensive. You have more, you don't want to push your calories over. Realistically, you're getting a better, more energy packed food from less than half, or sorry, however that works out. You're getting double the food with carbs and a little bit more, and you're still not getting the same amount of energy as fat provides. So essentially, right off the bat, you can eat less food. You can eat way less food if you're simply in this state, because the body is meant to be satiated. Fat is inherently satiating, and it also digests slower, which essentially prevents hunger hormones like insulin from being jacked up, your blood glucose from being jacked up. It slows down everything. It prevents you from being hungry, which is why one of the main tips I throw at people who are on a carb diet is mix some fat in with your breakfast. Instead of having just a bagel in the morning, throw some eggs in there, right? Have a fat source with there to slow that blood sugar spike and crash, because your hunger will be way more satiated. And when we're talking grocery bills, yeah, sure, maybe if you get a high quality, pasture raised dozen of eggs, it costs more, right? But if you're not needing to eat as many foods because you're not having these rapid volatile blood sugar and blood insulin spikes, you're consuming less food on a whole. And in fact, you're getting much more nutrient dense food if you get it from the right sources. Of course, grass-fed, organic foods are going to be more expensive, but if you find the right sources, farmer's market or something, you can always get those foods from better quality sources, and you can get your vegetables from pesticide-free, organic sources, and your meats and animal products from pasture-raised, grass-fed sources, which are much more nutrient dense and will keep you more satiated even as a result of their nutrient capacity. So essentially, that's number one. You're eating less food because the food you're eating is more satiating and more calorie dense, and overall, it doesn't cause these spikes of hunger hormones. Now, you might find it's also easier to fast. This is just a little add-on to the first one. You might find it's easier to fast in a keto state. This is because fasting and keto, breaking news, are the same thing. Think about it. When you're not eating anything, you're technically not eating carbs. So you're still in a keto state. In fact, a deeper keto state. So even though you might still end up eating the same amount of food in a day if you intermittent fast, right? If you want to have one meal a day and have more calories, besides the fact that you probably won't eat as many calories as you would if you cram it into a smaller eating window, you're simply boosting more of this fat burning property and your body's inherent lack of constant stress to the digestive system. So oftentimes when you're on a carb metabolism, you have to keep replenishing. That's the way it's designed. It's a luxury fuel source, and besides the fact that your body wants to, consume as much of it as possible, the way it's designed is that you keep replenishing it and using it. You want to be in some place where you can use both of these fuels for health, right? That's called metabolic flexibility. But why it's additionally less expensive. So of course you're eating less food. I also want to get into processed foods, right? Processed foods, right? A lot of the ones people know about, keto bars, all these other things, baking recipes, yeah, that can cost more if you're baking a lot or something, or if you're dishing out half your budget on snacks. But you have to realize you don't crave those snacks in the first place. Of course, you can have some Quest bars or some Quest chips, which I love, and I have links to in the description, because those Quest chips are game changers. Even if you're not doing keto, eat them, because seriously, most chips are full of MSG and other excitatory neurotoxins in there that trick your brain into thinking the chips taste better, and that's why you literally can't eat just one, because it tricks your brain into thinking, holy shit, this is the holy grail. So Quest chips, killer, low calorie, and they're keto, amazing. But the point is, a lot of these processed snacks, people approach them with the mindset that they would for a carb diet. They think they're going to have to keep replenishing. They think they're going to have to keep eating these snacks. And oftentimes if people do keto wrong, where they have little bits of carbs that kick them out of ketosis, their hunger isn't at that stable level that it should be. And they're looking at things through the lens of a carb metabolism. They're thinking they're going to have to eat all these snacks. They look at all the keto snacks and say, wow, this keto bar is like $4, right? I mean, I have links to ones that are better prices in my description. But essentially, a lot of these keto snacks are, of course, like $1 or $2 more than what a regular snack would be. Especially if you're not, as hungry and you're not craving all these extra sugary foods, your budget's going to drop. You're going to have even more room in your budget. But people look at this through the lens of a carb metabolism, and they assume their hunger is going to be the same. And they just think, maybe they, I don't know what they think. Maybe they think keto is just, oh, this is the snack I eat and this is the keto version and it's more money. You know what I mean? So essentially, not only are you not going to want to consume them as often as you would a regular bar or snack, but when you are consuming them, they're not something that's going to make you hungrier later on. And I have my recommendations, my preferences. I'm going to put out other videos on keto snacks I like. I have keto recipes that are so inexpensive and so nutrient dense and devoid of things you don't want that you can also check out. But the last point I wanted to touch on here, the budget balances out when you're not spending it on Oreos, okay? Essentially, like I said, your appetite's going to be lower. You're not going to be craving foods as much. You're not going to be on this whole rigmarole of up and down roller coaster, blood sugar, insulin. But even if you spend an extra few bucks on a high quality dozen of eggs and some better quality vegetables, you're going to be much more satiated to the point where, on an individual level, the steak you buy on keto, if you're getting high quality, is going to be a little bit more expensive, right? A couple bucks more per pound. But when you have that, even if individual foods cost more, the fact that you're no longer needing to buy all these Oreos, all these treats, right? All these extra little things to have to satiate your unendless, bottomless pit of hunger is out of the picture. So all the money that you would have spent on all those snacks is now allocated to high quality foods that keep you satiated, and there's no extra, tightness in the budget. Your budget is freer because individually things may cost more, and that's if you're getting the high quality stuff. If you're getting, regular industrial meat or something, which I'm very critical of whenever, but of course everybody's budget plays a role. If you're getting regular industrial meat or something, you can save even more money. That's the thing. If you're not getting the highest quality foods, then you're going to save even more money and you'll be in ketosis. It just might not be as nutrient dense. So the budget will have way more room than you think because you're simply looking through things through the lens of carb metabolism. And that's about it for this one. I have other videos. Maybe I'll do some grocery hauls in the future. There are some better keto snacks to have, but keep in mind, you're not going to need to be relying on these things. They're also a very good tool for people who are trying to wean themselves off of these, processed snacks, especially for good alternatives like Quest chips or certain bars, etc. That's it for this one, I think. Keto is definitely one of the least expensive fat loss diets, and inherently that's because of how it kills your appetite, because you're eating food that's more energy dense and more nutrient dense, especially if you handle that second part properly. Anthony Romano, peace.